The basement of the Grand Royal Hotel was a world beneath the glitter. Dim lights flickered against grimy tiles, casting restless shadows over spinning washers. The steady thrum of machinery echoed off damp walls, and the sharp scent of detergent clung to the air like a second skin. Upstairs, chandeliers sparkled over champagne flutes. Down here, among stained linens and silence, lived another kind of truth, one of exhaustion, quiet struggle, and survival. Just 2 floors apart, but 2 entirely different worlds. In the far corner of the laundry room sat Linda, knees tucked tightly to her chest. She was only 26, yet her hollow eyes belonged to someone who had endured far too much pain. Her blonde hair clung in damp strands around her pale face, dulled by sleepless nights and relentless labor. Her uniform hung loose, wrinkled, barely held together. The room buzzed with heat and bleach, yet Linda sat frozen, clutching a folded paper to her chest with trembling hands. Her breath was shallow, fragile, as if letting it out too quickly would make her unravel. It was a hospital bill. Her 4-year-old daughter, Judy, had been born with a heart defect. Surgery was urgent. The cost? Impossible. Linda had been fighting battles alone since she was 17, when a car crash took her parents. The man who promised forever had vanished the moment he learned she was pregnant. Every step since then had been uphill, but this bill was a wall she could not climb. Hands shaking, she dialed the only number left to try. "Please," she whispered when her aunt answered. "Just a little help. Judy's surgery." But her aunt's voice was flat. "Linda, I have my own kids. I can't keep helping you. I'll pay you back. Just enough to keep the surgery scheduled." "I'm sorry," her aunt said. "I can't do this anymore." The line went dead. The silence rang louder than the machines. Linda didn't cry, at least not at first. She just sank further into herself, trembling. Finally, she whispered, "I'm sorry, Judy. Mommy's so sorry." And then the tears came. The bill lay across her lap. $50,000 in bold numbers, a warning stamped in red. Payment required by Friday. It was Tuesday. She crumpled the bill, then smoothed it out again. Even now, she couldn't tear it. It was the last thread of hope she had. Just outside the laundry room, footsteps paused. A man in a maintenance uniform held a toolbox. He froze, drawn by the muffled sound of her sobs. Michael Reeve, CEO of the luxury hotel chain. Undercover once again as Mike, a maintenance worker. He had come here to evaluate the staff and the property, to decide if the failing hotel should be closed. But through the crack of the door, he saw her, a woman curled against the wall, clutching a paper like it was all she had left. She wasn't asking for help. She wasn't complaining. She was just breaking quietly. Michael stood frozen. He had built his reputation on logic, structure, efficiency. His decisions were calculated, precise, ruthless if they had to be. But something about the way she fell apart without anger, without noise, struck him. She straightened herself moments later, wiped her face with trembling hands, fixed her hair, and stood tall, like no one had seen her crumble. Michael turned and walked away, but the image stayed with him. Her silence, her strength, her pain. That night, he couldn't sleep. That was the first time I saw a woman cry, he thought. Not for herself, but for the tiny heart fading inside her daughter's chest. The man who had always believed emotions were liabilities found himself shaken. For the first time in his career, numbers didn't feel like enough. And without realizing it, Linda's quiet struggle had already begun to change everything. Linda waited by the counter, her steps faltering as she glanced back toward the maintenance rooms. Mike was different. Unlike the others, he never asked why she looked tired. He never mentioned her hollow eyes or her hurried steps. He didn't pry, but he noticed. For a fleeting second, she wondered if men like him still existed, men who carried a quiet kindness instead of questions. Maybe he's just one of the rare good ones left in this cold world, she thought. And maybe that's enough. It was a quiet Thursday evening when everything shifted. Linda returned to her storage room, her body aching, her heart heavier than usual. She turned the knob, pushed the door open, then froze. The bulb overhead, dead for months, flickered to life. A warm golden glow filled the cramped space, chasing away the shadows. Her thin mattress, her daughter's photo taped to the wall. Suddenly, they looked less forgotten. On the floor by the door lay a folded note. She picked it up and read, "Light is something you should have." There was no signature, but she knew Linda pressed the note to her chest, and, for the first time in what felt like forever, she smiled. Not the polite smile she gave guests, not the mask she wore at work. This was real. A smile born from being seen. In the days that followed, Michael, still Mike to everyone else, lingered after shifts. They sat on overturned crates in the break room, sipping chamomile tea from paper cups. One late night, with only the hum of the vending machine breaking the silence, Linda finally spoke from deep inside. Do you ever feel like no matter how much you give, it's never enough to protect the people you love? Michael paused, his hands tightening around the cup. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Yes, he admitted. I used to think love made people weak, that it blurred judgment. He turned the cup slowly in his palms. But now, I think love is the only thing strong enough to keep us going when nothing else will. Linda stared down at her tea. No one had ever said it like that. And that night, she opened up, not fragments, not half-truths, but everything. Pawning her engagement ring for medicine. Skipping meals so Judy could eat. Nights begging emergency rooms to take her daughter without upfront payment. I was angry, she confessed, her voice trembling. Not just at life, but at myself, for never being enough. Michael reached out, steady hand on her shoulder. His voice low, unshaken. You are more than enough. And the light, it's coming. I promise. Linda didn't reply, but her tears felt different this time. Softer. Not fire, but release. The next morning, Michael made a